You've been?
I have a little float, you got a
Okay.
float on?
She just talks about it all the time.
Do not.
All the time. It's all she does, Angie, all day long. And she says, I'm so tired, Angie's not done. And then she's like, look, I'm so tan.
Yes.
I've been out in the sun. We're just kidding.
I've got that ready. Okay, so this is already, so what I did was, there's a place you can go and see. So I did that. So what it's doing is,
They do a certain time that you start.
and whenever you're finished, you can do it. See, this is.
I did see that. That's super cool. I like that. I was confused about that.
I don't know where once it starts.
Yeah, we're okay.
It's going, there's a place that you can go into. Hi, how are you?
Good, just wanna make sure you got the document in there. And is it gonna be quick?
It's up there on the podium. Yeah, so whenever you come up, I'll just open it up and get it going. You're welcome. So.
We've been all right.
this
Oh,
Royce?
well, oh, yes.
Okay.
No, well, yeah, he got scooted over.
Hey. Get out of your way. Hi, Stephanie. How you doing? Fine, fine.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I had those tax hearings this evening. Those tax hearings in Fulton.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I stuck it in there.
You missed a good dinner back there. You better get
Yeah, I'll
some.
get something on the way out.
Good, good.
Oh, yeah, you gotta
I had to,
move your seat up.
they moved me down.
You moving into Ronnie's place temporarily, huh?
Yeah.
Why not?
They put me next to Sim so I couldn't act up.
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
How you know you're supervisor?
Yeah, that is how you know.
Is that Angie? You moving into Ronnie's place temporarily? Why not? Uh-oh, uh-oh.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
She snuck in on us here.
That's a good thing, being quiet, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's it.
Are we gonna be okay to table the P and Z?
Oh, yeah, whatever you
The person I thought I was putting on
want. Really?
5 o'clock.
Oh, my.
Okay, well, I'm gonna.
Okay, did you get what he said?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. Yeah.
Postpone.
That's life.
Yeah.
Do we have to give a specific date?
No, you don't. No, next, say next available. Unless you have a date in mind, then you can say that. Yeah, just say next available, yeah.
That's all you need. We're not having an executive session tonight, are we, Mike?
No.
I didn't think so.
Nothing ready to go. You have your ringer turned on. You don't want to be given remarks, then your phone rings. There you go.
Alrighty. Are we ready?
Wait till you give a retirement speech.
Oh.
I'll call you.
Should get you on here.
Give your retirement speech, okay?
Oh, but you gotta let me know when it goes
If
online.
if you hear all the time, we'd have to get a pillow for your seat or something.
No, it's not equitable.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Short people
You
don't.
know, we'll get you a higher chair or
If I
something.
go higher, it's gonna mess with my hips and
Oh,
balance,
oh,
you know?
no, you don't want that.
No, no.
Okay? Let her rip.
At this time, I call the regular city council meeting on Tuesday, July 26th at 6:07 PM in order. So we will have Grady Simpson, Councilmember District 2, lead us in invocation today. And if you will, please remain standing for the pledge after invocation.
Think about our heads, please. Oh God, we come giving you much gratitude for bringing us together once again. Thank you for watching us over the years and over the months, throughout the weeks. We ask for your continued guidance as a council in making our decisions about the city, doing what's right and justice, just towards everyone. All in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
But next, we have mayor and council community recognition and events. And we have Tim Royce retirement today. And what we'll do first is I think a few of us have thoughts to give Tim Royce and his family who has joined us today. So we'll ask them to come up here in a few moments to join Tim at the front. And, Tim, as I've been reflecting on kind of your time period on city council, I was thinking back to when you and I first met, and that was serving on the Terrell Parks Board. We were both members. You were first on the Parks Board, and my goodness, he was an advocate of trying to make sure that we had funding available for all the deferred maintenance that we had at that time. And then when I saw him move into the city council role that he's been in this far, he has continued to advocate for all the parks improvements that we've seen, not only in District 5, but throughout the city. So I certainly commend you on all the work. I have certainly learned a thing or two from Councilmember Royce when it comes to housing development, making sure that we're following the process. He's always has excellent legal questions. To give just one example, Tim Royce, there will be an empty seat next to me for a period of time, and no one will be able to replace Tim Royce. They will have big shoes to fill, and I dearly mean that. So, Tim, I, as your council dais neighbor, council member, a colleague, will miss you, and I know that wherever you go, you will always make a presence and an impact. So I wish you and your family who has joined us today and your son the very best in your next chapter. And I thank you for all the work and service to the city of Terrell. And with that, if you'll allow me just a moment, The mayor, who is Mayor Rick Carmona, is not able to be here with us today. However, he is excused from today's meeting, and he wanted to make sure that I read a few words that he has to share about Councilmember Royce as well. So, from Mayor Rick Carmona, I am deeply appreciative of the work Councilman Tim Royce has provided to District 5. He has continued the tradition of serving District 5 well. His participation in debate and sometimes spirited discussion will most certainly be remembered by those who have served with him. On behalf of the mayor and city council, I want to wish Councilman Royce and his family all the best in their future endeavors. And on behalf of the citizens of District 5, all citizens of Terrell, thank you for your service.
All right, I'd like to add, it's been a pleasure serving with you. I really respect you. You're an honorable man. There's 3 things I think I'll remember just this brief time serving with you on this council. Budget, garage sizes, and sidewalks. I'll remember those 3 things. Every time that comes up, your face will flash before my eyes. You have a great sense of humor. Thank you. Sometimes in this business, things are not always kind or nice, but you always had a great sense of humor and you were approachable. And I also appreciate the encouragement. You're an encourager. I know sometimes when we have these meetings, you leave out of here going, what just happened? Or what did I do? We know we have that fiduciary duty to our citizens and to this great city, and those things happen sometimes, but those are the things that kind of remind me of my brief stint with you here. And good luck on all your endeavors, and I'm sure we're gonna cross paths a few more times. And I wanna also extend your family just a thank you, because this service doesn't come lightly. It takes a lot of work, it's a lot of commitment from you two. You missed him, I'm sure, on several Tuesday nights. And so we appreciate you guys sharing him with us for this time that he served the city. So thanks to you guys too.
Well, I'd just like to say, Royce called me a newbie for 3 years. But I guess now he respects me as a tenured council member. But I do always, I thought what was funny about his Christmas lights, he always wanted the Christmas lights, downtown. So maybe we need to get pass some type of ordinance or whatever and call it the Royce Christmas show, whatever it might be. But one thing I can say about Mr. Royce is that he and I hadn't always seen things eye to eye, but we were always able to leave the council meetings, with it all behind us. Sometimes we went out to have lunch, just right after we maybe had a major disagreement. So I just appreciate his insight and his balanced thinking and intellect about relationships and learning to, agree to disagree. So we're gonna miss you, buddy. I mean, it's hard to replace your type of experience, but I know you're gonna go enjoy your $1 million life now, living out in Gilmer, and you're gonna be missed. And I appreciate serving with you.
Thank you, thank you. We're gonna need to buy lottery tickets from him.
If I may, Mayor Pro Tem, it's been my privilege to serve with Councilman Royce as one of the city attorneys, and I know Ms. Ramsey, who is unfortunately suffering with COVID and can't be here right now, but I know she would join me in this. And the thing I'll always remember Councilman Royce for is 2 things. One, I think Councilwoman Thomas has already alluded to. As I told him back earlier, I always thought of Tim as our budget hawk. They always talk about that in Washington. Certain ones are budget hawk. Well, Tim was our budget hawk. He could find all that, and I bet Jay back there could attest to that too, couldn't you, Jay? So, but that was good, and it was very good. The other thing I'll always remember him for, and I've mentioned it to him in the past, was when we were debating what we were going to do to retain our police officers here. That neighboring cities were raising salaries, and that 1 or 2 of our police officers were looking at leaving us because of that. And the proposal was, well, let's equal what they're doing. But Tim said, no, we're going to do better than that, and we did. And Tim's leadership on that, and I think that speaks highly of him. I think our department is well off because of it. So Tim, it's been a pleasure to serve with you, and good luck wherever you do.
So, I'm going to speak for staff overall, and that's my role from time to time. I'm going to tell you that you might think to yourself that the guy who has 6 million questions and 6 million opinions and detailed thoughts on lots of topics would be frustrating to staff. You might think that, right? But it turns out that that's not actually true, because it's really the hallmark of the trait that staff is hoping for in council members that we see in Tim Royce. And it's just one word, and that is that you care. You cared enough to read things that were sent to you. You cared enough to show up at meetings late at night and in strange places, and you cared enough. This impressed me. You cared enough that at conferences you would arrange field trips for your colleagues to go look at things. You cared enough to sit with me in my office when we were trying to work on the park plan and go through basically every single page of the park plan. You cared enough to look at different revisions of Ben Gill Park in that master plan multiple times. And you cared enough to type up Facebook posts. You cared enough to spend time with staff looking around this room and other places in the city and talk about technology. And I could say that about a lot of things. You cared enough to say, hey, I've got some time, maybe not to drive from Dallas to Terrell to have lunch with you, but I've got time for you to come to Dallas to have lunch with me. And we did that a few times to kind of go through big picture and what was on your mind, and that's a great way to represent your district. So staff always is inviting of people who are on council or on our boards and commissions who say, hey, I care, and I want to share what I care deeply about, so that can help mold and shape the city. And I can't really give you any higher praise than that, because that is a very, very important thing. It's really what you get when you have a volunteer organization like ours, right? Every elected official here is a volunteer. I get questions continually from members of the public who will think from time to time that there's some sort of stipend or reimbursement or something, and the answer is no. We're a city council that is 100% volunteer, and the thanks you get for being on council is that you get to work hard and spend time on topics and get on a bus and go tour in 100-degree heat different parks and different locations. So we know you gave of your time and of your energy, and we know that you gave of your family life. You gave to the city when you were volunteer in youth baseball. You gave to the city when you were on the park board. You gave to the city when you were on city council. And so I'm kind of sorry to see you go, because a person who's been a tremendously great volunteer for the city in more than one respect over a lengthy period of time is moving away from the city. I would tell you that in a way it's an interesting comparison to the rest of council, because one of the great things about council right now is that everybody on the city council has a legacy of a lot of volunteer participation in the city, and you really just can't beat that. There's a magic sauce that we've got going right now with city council, and you were the leader of helping people see that that's a great template for a city council person. So you've meant a lot to me. You've meant a lot to staff. Glenn Caldwell and I were reflecting on this as the person who's been over parks for a long time. Glenn Caldwell certainly has extends his appreciation and love to you as well. We thank you. I have a little gift, but I'm going to hold my gift to the end of gifts. And so anyway, that's my remarks. I respect the heck out of you. I thank you for your work, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Ronnie, so I'm gonna say a few words. I typed up something, but I'm sure that I'm gonna ad-lib most of it. So I would say my journey to city council is maybe different than some of y'all's. So I never really thought about running for city council. So I was really involved. Yep, I was really involved in youth sports and baseball and soccer and band and all that good stuff. just because I wanted to help the kids out. That got me into parks, got me onto the Parks Board. I was a baseball dad with DJ Ori, and when DJ stepped down from council, I just took the opportunity to run for a seat. So right then, we were just two baseball dads talking, and so baseball led me to city council. And I should nod my head to Steve Rogers, because Steve Rogers was over parks way back in the day, and did a good job. Steve was my first interaction with a city employee, and I appreciate Steve throughout all the years, because there's been a lot of good knowledge come from Mr. Rogers. So thank you, Steve. I'd also like to say, hey, thanks to Melissa. She's always been the supporter, kind of the rah-rah of the team, but she helped with everything, but she just never wanted her name listed. So she goes, I'll help with anything you do, just don't put my name down on the paper. So thank you to Melissa for being a good sport. Katie back there, who's a recent graduate of A&M, back in her high school days, man, she helped me campaign. We had the Royce is Your Choice shirts, and she helped me knock on doors and distribute flyers, and we did that for months and months and months. Anyways, but that was way back in 16, so that was a minute ago. Should give a head nod to our son. He's in the Navy, and he is in Cuba at the moment, doing his hospital corpsman thing, so grateful for him. So I truly wanted to say, the road to city council for me came through parks. So please keep that legacy going. Man, back in 14 and 15, there just wasn't a lot of money for parks. There wasn't a lot of capital projects happening. There was a lot of broken pieces. Since then, part of having grand ideas is having grand solutions, and Mr. Sims was really part of this, because when you have such a grand plan for parks that cost tens of millions of dollars, you have to have a funding mechanism. So the funding mechanism came in the way of Paddock, right? And to date, that has brought in, I think it's $2.8 million. So since 2019, those tax funds have brought in almost $3 million. And that's what allows you to see some of the new parks or new lights at Ben Gill. Breezy Hill has new lights. Breezy Hill has new sidewalks. I mean, every park in town has multiple new items and shade structures, and parks have just come a long way. So please keep that going with parks. I think it's great, right? That's how you get families. We spent 12 to 20 hours a weekend at the parks. I mean, we were in the parks. We love the parks. Bought our house next to a park. So I encourage y'all to keep parks going. Let's see, guys, what else? Oh, I should also thank city staff, right? So, as council, we interact with, we have a handful of people we interact with, right? Sims and Allison and Rogers. But, who are the true heroes, right, of our everyday life, right? It's the guy fixing the water main when it's 10 degrees outside, right? Or it's the guy that's helping mow at the parks when it's 110 outside, right? Man, we had a lot of mowing conversations in this town. So I'm very appreciative for all those people that help keep our city going every day, right? Those are the people that affect your life every single day. So just please pass on my gratitude to everybody. With that being said, I would just like to say to my fellow council members, enjoy the job. It's a job. Don't let it stress you out too much. Votes will go your way and votes won't go your way. But vote with conviction. Know your stance. So that's it. I would just say that. And Grady, I know Grady's going to keep being kumbaya and keep smoothing things over for us. And that's good, because Stephanie's got a lot of questions. So I like it. That seat has never had so many questions. So I appreciate Grady and I appreciate Ms. Thomas. Mary Ronnie, you've been here for multiple years. Thank you very much for your service. So Greg and Sims, thank you. That's it for me. I'm probably just going to ramble on, so I'm going to yield back. So say thank you all.
We'd love to make sure that we have you come up to the front. The dais here.
Okay. Stephanie's got a lot of questions. So I like it. That seat has never had so many questions. So I appreciate Grady and I appreciate Ms. Thomas. Mary Ronnie, you've been here for multiple years. Thank you very much for your service. So Greg and Sims, thank you. That's it for me. I'm probably just going to ramble on, so I'm going to yield back. Say thank you all. Looks like Melissa's going to plan. That's why.
I'll put the rose on the photogenic side.
Oh, there we go.
There you go, yeah.
The Miranda Lambert Rose.
I love it, Miranda Lambert Rose.
So these gifts are from council, and I would say that one of the most important things for you to know is we had a lot of discussion about should we give the traditional vase of flowers, and it seemed really inappropriate with your new house to give you disposable flowers. So here's a renewable flower. All you have to do to make it bloom again is put it in dirt.
Okay.
It can be easy.
It's
All right?
easy. Yep.
Excellent.
Dirt and water.
All right, very good.
Have a lot of
So you
dirt.
always do the wife gift first. It's very important,
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah, huh?
It's very pretty.
Okay, awesome. Councilman? Okay, yeah, all right. So the next gift is a host of items, because whenever we lose a council person to moving away, you don't want them to go somewhere else and run for office somewhere else. So you want to do what I would call branding them. Now, you don't want to brand them with like a hot iron or anything like that. I thought maybe get him a tattoo, and that would be good. But this was the compromise pack here, and it brands him as always being part of Terrell.
Thank you very much. So can I dig
Oh,
into this?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah,
Just
huh?
checking.
Yeah, huh?
Just checking. Well, Katie, I'm gonna bump you over a little bit. So, so I would say we are moving to the country. So I would say this is probably very appropriate for, not today, but in
go,
a few
man.
months.
Yeah, huh? Yeah, don't work today.
Not today. So Katie's gonna hold that. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. Oh, the logo
All
hat,
right, yeah,
which
huh?
I have the green one, so I'm very,
I like that one.
I like this one. Okay. And then this is the combo pack, right? This is, Melissa's gonna steal the gloves to plant the Miranda Lambert roses. So, well, thank you all. Hey, I like swag. So this is swagged out. So I appreciate all you very much. And then, I'm gonna take a picture. Okay.
I have to give you your additional gift.
Okay.
Now, your additional gift
Yes.
is not emptiness, right? Okay. Here's the additional gift. The additional gift is, we were trying to think of something that made sense in terms of your contribution to parks. And for me, a tree is everything, right? Because a tree symbolizes the fact that you started something that 40, 60, 100 years later will be bigger, greater, and more awesome in every possible way. And I don't like to accidentally kill trees. So I present to you no trees right now.
Okay.
However, you will soon become a member of the National Arbor Day Foundation.
Okay.
You will soon, but not like really soon, like in the fall when it would make sense to plant, receive at your new address a small collection of trees which you will be able to plant in decorative places around, because everything you did here was planting a seed for the next generation of city council, right? I want you to look at those trees out and about, and I want you to say to yourself, wow, the strategic plan I voted for, the comp plan I voted on, the park plan I voted on, everything you did here was planting a tree, because there'll be a group of council people up here 20 years from now, and they're gonna rely on what city did you help make for them. All of the capital infrastructure you're talking about, the economic development deals, how we took care of staff, everything that was done during your time on council is what the next round of council people have to do. And so look at the trees and think that.
but I can't show you a tree right now.
Okay.
So my apologies.
No,
Anyway,
that's
thank
great.
you for all
Hey,
your service. I
Thank
really
you very much.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Uh-huh.
thank you. So,
I promise you guys a picture of him on the tractor in his new swag.
Love it.
yes,
Yeah, I gotta
yes,
have
that's
that.
it.
Right,
We'll-
absolutely. Uh-huh.
We'll definitely get a tractor picture. I'm gonna wait till the fall to put this one on.
Yeah. So we want everybody up in a photo, Allison? Is that what you're gonna do, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
That's a good question. I think I'm just gonna stick it right here. Yeah, that's good. So.
Sure, yeah.
It is pretty, very pretty.
Thank you for all your service. You're good. Uh-huh.
Like group pictures.
Love it. Yeah, I gotta have that. Right, absolutely.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yes,
I'm
Alice,
gonna put this over.
let's do
here.
one more.
you.
Melissa,
Okay.
we're taking a picture.
All right.
Yeah.
I have to say it just like that every time. I feel like we've taken a minute.
Awesome, thank you. They have been excused.
What, we are still, we still have mayor and council recognition and events. I do want to note to all those that are listening and today are here with us that our Ryder C. Hulsey Public Library is looking for a ESL instructor for a beginner course every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. And they are also in need of a few individuals that can essentially do like a daycare staff duty. I know we have other roles within our organization, I believe, on the utility department. Well, Mike, I'll let you.
I would say that whatever you'd like to do for a living, we have an opening for you. So please, municipal development, engineering, lots of different opportunities out there. Go to the city website, cityofterrell.org, and there's an opportunity for you.
Thank you, Mike. And if we have any other recognition or events from council or staff?
Yeah, I can give you one more, and that is, I thought we hosted a great end of the summer reading program pool party. And Becca and her team always does a great job. Morgan, who's our youth library, was the leader of that this year. She did a great job. Glenn Caldwell's team over there in the swimming pool staff did a great job having the pool ready, and just another good event. And I want to say that we had somewhere between 200 and 300, depending on how you count it, registered people reading with us. And I believe the winning reader of the most read for something on the order of 13,000 minutes over the course of the summer. And so lots of great success there, and a wonderful thing to encourage reading amongst kids. So thanks to everybody who pulled that off. Glenn Caldwell's team over there in the swimming pool staff did a great job.
Thank you, Mike. And hearing no other remarks from council or staff, we will move into hearing remarks from visitors. And we do have one visitor that has joined us and signed up to speak today. If we can have Ms. Angie Cooper come up to the podium. There is a 3-minute limit, and council will not be able to respond at this time. However, if there are any questions, then staff will follow up with you afterwards. And we'll also note that we're always happy to have a Terrell Chamber of Commerce member with us.
Thank you, guys. Tim, we go back a long ways from T-ball, and I do appreciate all you've done with everything from a long time ago. So, and all you guys work very hard on the council, and I do appreciate each of y'all's time. I do know, because Tim is leaving, District 5 is now open, and my concern is that we have a budget planning retreat. What do y'all call it here? You can't talk to me, right? I'm sorry. You have a budget meeting coming up, and I would just hope that y'all would remember District 5 whenever you make decisions, because there won't be anybody there to represent us, and that is concerning, and hopefully you don't wait until soon. You'll fill the seat soon to have representation in that district soon. So that's all I have, and thank y'all for all you do, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Open, and my concern is that we have a budget.
At this time, we will discuss and consider meeting minutes from the regular city council meeting on July 19, 2022.
You have a budget meeting coming up.
If there are, are there any corrections or adjustments from council?
And that is concerning. And
Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from
soon
the
you'll
last
see
agenda?
representation in-
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the July 19th meeting.
Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
At this time, we will all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. The motion moves forward and passes. At this time, we will discuss Eastland Business Park. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go back an item. So at this time, we will discuss appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustments Commission. And this item falls under Dawn Steele, City Secretary. If we will please hold any questions until the end, until Dawn provides the updates, please.
Mayor and council, in your packet is the Zoning Board of Adjustments roster, along with an email from Carolyn Fairley resigning from the board. She has moved and is no longer able to serve. There's several applications in the packet as well, and this board falls under the oversight of Tim Royce.
Okay, and Mayrani, I would like to say, I think we're going to make a motion to table or postpone this to a future meeting in August. Council will have pick up that discussion in August. So with that, I formally make a motion to postpone agenda item 7.1.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Several applications in the packet as well, and
No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayrani, I would like to say,
Well, then, the motion moves forward, and we will move this item to a future agenda. So at this time, we will discuss Eastland Business Park, and this will fall under Mike Sims, City Manager, and he will introduce Anthony Ross of Anthony Properties.
So, Mayor and Council, I'll invite Ross Anthony to come on up. Ross has been a good partner with the city for many years. The organization he represents, Anthony Properties, is been a long-term investor in the city of Terrell. They own quite a large assemblage of land that stretches basically from the edge of Crossroads development all the way across Big Brushy Creek, and there's actually a section of homes that are developing now on the west side of Big Brushy Creek in our ETJ and in the Forney Independent School District. That land stretches from US 80 and goes all the way down to south of Interstate 20. So lots of work with Ross over the years. We had a discussion about this topic at council a couple of different times, partly because we've done some things related to the municipal utility district that's on the land. So you've seen Ross before talking about issues related to the municipal utility district. As you guys know, it's the subject of a 2005-2006 agreement between the city and the landowner. I would say that this is a really interesting new opportunity. This item was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission recently. They had a good reaction to it. They took a vote on it, and that'll come to you at a later date. But today was just an orientation to introduce the idea to you, and I'll hand it over to Ross to go through his presentation.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, councilmen and councilwomen, for allowing me to speak tonight. Mike took a few words out of my prepared remarks, but I'll go ahead and read them anyway, just to stay on track. My name is Ross Anthony. I represent Anthony Properties. We're the landowner and developer for this project, which is Eastland Park. The project is proposed to take place on 724 acres, which Anthony Properties has owned since around 2006. The particular tract is a portion of approximately 4,500 acres west of Terrell, which our company owns, which is commonly referred to as Los Lomas. Tonight, I'll be giving you an overview of the project by first providing background on some recent economic and industry trends that we've been watching, and also providing some high-level information about our project, and then finally discussing with you all some of the details around the PD zoning that we are seeking that was previously heard at Planning and Zoning. Now, to clarify, I'm not seeking any vote tonight, but we will be seeking at a future date. As you're undoubtedly aware, the DFW Metroplex has experienced unprecedented economic growth over the past few years. In fact, Texas was just awarded the Governor's Cup by Site Selection Magazine for winning over 1,100 significant business projects in 2021. That's more than 3 projects brought to the state every day. DFW is receiving a huge share of this statewide growth and one of the top destinations for corporate headquarters in the United States. DFW right now is projected to increase employment by about 4.8% next year. A significant portion of the economic activity and development is occurring within light industrial, manufacturing, and logistics industries. Anthony Properties has been keenly tracking these projects, which tend to be clustered in master-planned business parks. Some examples in the DFW Metroplex include Alliance, which is north of Fort Worth, the Southport Logistic Park in Wilmer, and finally the Gateway Industrial Projects in neighboring Forney. These business parks are a magnet for well-paying jobs, capital investment, and economic activity. As an added benefit, compared to single-family or multifamily housing, business parks place no demand on the school district, and they require fewer municipal services from the city. In an effort to win these deals here in Terrell, we at Anthony Properties have worked in cooperation with the Terrell Economic Development Corporation for the past few years, responding to several requests for proposals related to build-to-suit and corporate relocation opportunities. Unfortunately, our site has never gotten traction with these large businesses, and it's because they require service-ready sites with roads, utilities, and zoning already in place, none of which our property has. Instead, we've seen these deals land in other DFW locations with existing business parks where service-ready land is already available. In 2022, there's projected to be over 57 million square feet of industrial buildings constructed in DFW, more than any other market in the country. Unfortunately, last I checked, none of those projects are going to be located in Terrell itself. In an effort for Terrell to win the next industrial projects, we've been working with city staff to secure new entitlements for our property, which would provide service-ready sites, which is what these tenants are seeking, with utilities and zoning already in place, allowing for industrial development projects. We've named this project Eastland Park. Thank you. The Eastland Park will consist of 724 acres, as you can see on this slide. Approximately 60% of the project will be used as a business park, and the remainder will be used for retail and commercial uses. In order to construct the public infrastructure needed to provide the site with the roads and utility capacity, Anthony Properties intends to invest over $80 million into infrastructure throughout the life of this project. Once that infrastructure is in place, we anticipate additional private investment of over $500 million to construct the approximately 7 million square feet of new buildings, which we expect to sit on the site. Based on input from our brokers at Cushman & Wakefield, we estimate that the business users occupying those buildings will bring over 10,000 new jobs to the city of Terrell. If you look around DFW, it's some of the most successful industrial business parks in the area. Most have service-ready sites developed with a public-private partnership that have stood the test of time. If you look at Alliance, for example, which essentially started way back in the 80s and early 90s, the park is still delivering tremendous economic value to North Fort Worth area to this day by continuing to attract businesses and jobs. Through cooperation with the City of Terrell, our hope is to establish the type of service-ready industrial business park that will deliver similar economic impacts to Terrell now and for the decades to come. So how do we plan to deliver this project? It starts with a team of people. The team is made up of Anthony Properties, which will serve as the land developer for the project. Our company has 4 decades of development experience and a long history in Terrell dating back to 2006. In addition to experience, Anthony Properties is well capitalized and able to take advantage of this development opportunity. Our team is filled out with consultants, including our engineering team at Kimley Horn, led by Matt Lucas, and our brokers with Cushman & Wakefield. These consultants are recognized both locally and nationally as leaders in the industry, particularly in industrial and distribution space. We feel that the team is well suited to design a product and attract the end users that the city has been courting for the past few years. The challenge that our team is facing is to take a property as it currently sits, which is effectively undeveloped farmland, and turn it into a service-ready park. This slide shows the entirety of the area that is commonly referred to as Las Lomas. The majority of our industrial project is included in this overall area, and we'll show it to you in more detail on the next slide. But the area is between I-20 and Spur 557, as Mike said, and east of Terry Creek. Currently, Las Lomas is almost entirely in the city's ETJ and the subject of several development agreements negotiated back in 2006. The land uses contemplated under those agreements are shown on this map, and as you can see, the concept plan shows mostly single-family and multifamily residential uses. This area is now showing what we're now referring to as Eastland Business Park and the subject of these conversations. Eastland Business Park, in relation to the overall Las Lomas area. And let's see. Okay, there we go, zoomed in. Based on consultation with the city, we've agreed to reserve those areas of our property which are adjacent to main highway corridors for retail and commercial uses, while the interior portions of the property are where we've planned for the majority of industrial development. The proposed base zoning for the retail and commercial areas, which are shown in yellow on this map, is the highway corridor base zoning, which was recommended by the city of Terrell. And the proposed base zoning for the industrial areas, which is shown in dark gray, is the newly approved research and technology zoning, which was also recommended by the city of Terrell. The purple line that you see running from the north to the south between Spur 557 and I-20 is the proposed alignment for Las Lomas Parkway. This is an extension south of where you currently have the exit at Spur 557. And then the pink line, which you see running from Terry Creek on the west side to the southeast portion of the site, is the proposed alignment for Sage Hill Parkway. Our proposed PD zoning regulation is consistent with those base zones with a few key modifications. When thinking about the proposed modifications, it's important to note that the industrial portions of the property are for the most part tucked away into the heart of the proposed project, bordered by Terry Creek on the east. Most of the industrial buildings will be surrounded only by other industrial buildings. The public-facing portions of the project are essentially limited to the streets. And so our focus has been and will continue to be the street view to the industrial portions of the project, with the aim of providing end-user flexibility and allowing a state-of-the-art product that will attract end users to Terrell now and in the years to come. I won't go into specific detail on the table showing every deviation from the proposed base zone of RT, but you'll see that the several proposed deviations align with currently enacted light industrial zoning standards which the city of Terrell has. We feel that in certain cases and for certain uses, those make sense for the uses anticipated for this project. As an example, the maximum height by right in RT zoning is 50 feet, and we have proposed the 120 feet by right, which is consistent with the light industrial zoning district. We're proposing that height because it allows for the state-of-the-art facilities that national and Fortune 500 users are currently demanding in the market. The current market standard is called a 40-foot clear interior ceiling. A 40-foot clear ceiling height requires exterior building heights typically in excess of 55 to 60 feet. Just 5 years ago, the standard was a 28-foot clear, or sometimes a 32-foot clear. This additional 8 feet of interior height within the building can provide significant additional storage space for the end user. For example, in warehouses where they use a rack storage system, which are typically 12 feet high, they can stack 2 racks in a 28-foot or 32-foot clear height space. Those users can stack an additional third rack in a 40-foot clear height space. That means that the user can increase their storage space by about 50%. Similarly, certain e-commerce facilities incorporate mezzanines that can increase the usable square footage of a 1 million square foot facility to upwards of 2.5 million square feet. These are the types of bottom line differences for end users that can make or break a site when trying to attract the type of businesses that we hope to bring to Terrell. So this is an example of why we've requested such a variance. We anticipate that the industrial portion of this development will take in excess of 10 years to reach full build-out. Our aim, therefore, is to attempt as best we can to meet the current needs of market participants and to future-proof the PD zoning, including with respect to items like the allowed building height, to remain competitive over the development period and to consistently be able to attract end users to the Terrell market. As I mentioned, Anthony Properties and the EDC have jointly been pursuing end users for years. And in the last 12 months, we have been working with city staff on this project. We've received significant number of inquiries from parties interested in modern warehouse, distribution, and logistic facilities. That use in the current market demands a very specific large-scale building type with specific applications. Recently, that's often translated into large buildings with dock doors to ship and receive goods. The proposed deviations from the RT base zoning are intended to accommodate the business needs of end users and provide the service-ready and zone sites that they require. Sites that will be competitive compared to other sites in DFW so that we can start winning the RFPs that we've been losing out on for the last few years. For the areas with the highway corridor as the base zoning, which would be our commercial or our retail areas along the highway frontage, our goal is to align the zoning to the needs of those end users, including those who have already expressed interest in the area. We've had conversation with national retailers with whom, and with respect to their building prototypes, they often require large parking areas in the front of the building. Think a grocery store, for example. That's not currently allowed under the highway corridor zoning, and so we've made modifications under our proposed PD to allow for those uses as well. As far as next steps go, we've been working with the city on this project for well over a year, and we look forward to continuing to working with city staff and bringing forth several votes in front of you. We have yet to finalize our development agreement, the voluntary annexation, the PD zoning, which I've discussed with you tonight, and then a few other, I think, proposed entitlements. We hope those items can be achieved in the next month, in August. And then as we move into the fall, we look forward to bringing forth both the platting and construction process for this project. We hope to have the city's support to move quickly and achieve the timeline for our next steps. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
The sole reason for Terrell not attracting these projects, is it because of not having service-ready land?
Yes, generally speaking, it would be the service-ready nature of the land and then the size. I know that there are.
By service.
Sure. So service-ready under the kind of industry RFP standard term means a site that has roads and utilities and all other necessary infrastructure already available for an end user. So they can show up and they are responsible for building their building and occupying their building. That comes down to everything from having adequate capacity within the roadway system, adequate capacity within the water and sewer system that's serving the property. And so our property, and then also finally, and very importantly, having the appropriate zoning already in place so that they don't have to go through a zoning process, which takes time and there's uncertainty involved with it.
What's the challenge with the undeveloped farmland?
The challenge is that it is not a effort that the end users want to undertake, and they're able to find service-ready sites in other places. And so they don't have the desire or need to go take an undeveloped farmland project and try and do the extra level of work that's required of them to get their business running in that location. And so they're gonna go somewhere else and find a site that's more ready to go.
Well, you said something about 10 years. That's 10 years to have the site fully occupied?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so what we would intend to do would be to develop the base infrastructure, being installing the roads, the, sewer capacity, all those things that we've discussed in anticipation of those users coming. So we're making an investment into the property to get it ready to go in anticipation of those users coming to the property. But I do believe that, yes, on a, 500 acres of industrial approximately, it's going to take something in the order of 10 years to develop because of the size of the project.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
What is our commitment gonna be to you after you invest this $80 million in this infrastructure? What's the city's commitment?
So I think I'll take that one. I would say that the reason the PowerPoint slide in front of you says finalized development agreement is that's something that we're going to continue to work on in executive session related to the project. Tonight's part of it was simply the element of let's take a look at the same presentation P&Z saw, and then we'll take some effort into the development agreement negotiations after that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on side setbacks and rear setbacks. So I see the change requested is for a 10-foot side setback. Mike, is that truly an industrial building can be 10 foot off the property line and the next one can be 10 foot off the property line?
I think that the way to read that has more to do with the element of that is also inclusive of the issue of, like, for example, my fire lane. So I got to build a fire lane around a building of this size. So in the example of a 1 million square foot facility, the building itself is going to be surrounded by a variety of parking uses and that sort of thing. So you're going to have parking and fire lane and that sort of thing, and then you're going to have a required 10-foot green around the edge of it. So I think I'd envision it more that way. I will say there's bound to be some examples that they end up building in this business park where it's not truck dependent and it's more smaller type facilities. And so when we see that kind of thing come up, there may be some instances where you'll have a building that close. But I think those are going to be your smaller buildings that are more the office elements that end up getting built out here. One of the project examples that we've used discussing this is we lost out on a data center probably about a year ago. Data centers are great use, not a lot of employees, but a lot of property tax payment, frankly. But good jobs for a small number of people, a lot of resources on the inside of the building, and consequently just not a huge amount of parking demand. So in a facility like that, you're going to see a pretty plain Jane box sitting there with a fairly limited parking field to it. And having a box of that type up close to a property line just didn't seem negative. So.
Okay. So I would say, council, man, I value the green space, right? Once you build, you're kind of locked into it. So my only comment for just side and rear setback, while it is a minor detail, man, I'd encourage council to keep your side and rear setbacks at 20 foot. That's your green space, right? That's what allows you to have just a little bit of beauty built into whatever project, even if it's industry. So that's my comment there. And then on height, Mike, is the city okay? What's the city's stance on the 120-foot height?
Staff was happy with the package, and I'll kind of go through a couple of thoughts there. We're already under the gun from a fire protection standpoint to make sure that we've got large equipment. We've already got several hotels that are around that size. We think more of that sort of thing is going to get developed in the interior part of town. We anticipate additional apartments that will be maybe not 120, but they'll be rather high as well. There'll be 3 or 4 story apartment buildings. So we think a lot of height is coming our way, so we can do the work necessary to protect those buildings, and we think that's part of our skill set in the fire department. The other thing to say is it kind of goes hand in hand with the setback comment, right? The project is sort of planned to be one big thing, and I'll say it that way kind of clumsily to say Sage Hill Parkway is designed with specific width and setback requirements associated with Sage Hill, because it essentially makes the northern boundary of the project. So there's requirements on Sage Hill for specialty setbacks of certain distances that create a natural setback from Sage Hill Parkway. The blue strip that you saw on the map is a special reserve setback area that creates an even further distance away from the shopping area at Crossroads. And there's actually no truck driveways allowed on Sage Hill Parkway in that section between Las Lomas and Interstate 20. So those are some things that create on the Sage Hill side of it a specialty buffer there. On the western side of the project, it's bounded by Terry Creek. Terry Creek is an entire greenway on that side of the project. I don't have the width of that greenway off the top of my head, but that's a fairly large floodplain that's going to create a natural green area between the west side of the project and whatever develops to the west from there. So you've got a northern boundary and a western boundary. And down along through the middle of it, what you've got is an opportunity through the middle of it with Las Lomas Parkway, where that's a 130-foot right-of-way that again has specialty design standards associated with it and landscaping through it. So a little bit of the idea has been to make sure that we make the primary roads very high quality and to make that greenway high quality so that you're surrounding the development as a whole with green, and then you let the individual buildings within the green be a little bit closer than they might otherwise be and a little bit higher than they might otherwise be. We think that's a good compromise because it creates I've entered the business park and the business park is one cohesive whole. That's kind of the thought behind it.
Okay. No, thank you.
Yep.
And I should also say, hey, thank you for your company's continued investment in Terrell. So it's great. This looks like a great project. So I'm going to yield back.
Thank you.
So certainly, this is an ongoing negotiation, and with negotiations, you win some and you lose some, right? So we have to meet somewhere in the middle. I appreciated seeing, the screening of all loading areas from the view of the neighborhoods, specifically the residential areas that could be seen from this proposed project. I also, liked the signage to make sure that individuals know where the site is located and are not being lost within the residential or other areas where trucks should not be driving through. The area that I also have a concern about are the side and rear setbacks. Of course, the scaling back from 20% of lot width from the side and the 20 feet rear, going to 10 feet both side and rear. So I will note that for city staff, that is also a concern that I share. I would encourage fellow council members to, if you have any questions that come up after tonight's meeting, please contact staff and to answer your questions.
So just kind of a review of process from here, thinking about the things that need to get done before we do a large-scale annexation. So we got a municipal utility district. We've got an agreement that dates back from 2005. There are certain rights embedded in that. What we're trying to do now is to walk through this methodically and say, okay, we'll need a planning and zoning vote. That's happened, that's been achieved. They've said at planning and zoning, hey, we recommend this package subject to negotiation of a development agreement and subject to annexation. There's very specific wording in that P&Z action. So you have a complete ordinance that we can provide for your review. This project has been forward in front of the Terrell Economic Development Corporation. Terrell Economic Development Corporation took a look at it and is making an investment related to some water line issues. And then this project is also one where we would hope that we would be able to arrange a tax increment refinance zone. So there's several things that have to happen first, and after those happen, then it comes forward in a package where in one evening we would be able to see the development agreement, the annexation, any other specialty items related to the project. Again, the zoning would be an attachment to the development agreement. So that list of things, which includes some consent actions related to the municipal utility district here. And remember also that this is that project we talked about where we have to make a slight alteration to the size of TERS number 1. So we've got quite the laundry list and quite a pile of paperwork associated with this project. And again, this is just an opportunity to get the PowerPoint in front of council. We'll have other documents that come out to council soon with plenty of details to review. So you can count on us to get all of those documents out to you in the near future.
I'm going to ask you this. What other projects have you done? It's quite impressive that you've got over a 40-year history and over $500 million, and you've been working in Terrell since 2006. What other projects have we worked with us on?
Sure.
Kind of new to
So, our company, Anthony Properties, was founded by my father in the early 80s. We originally were started as a developer of movie theaters, and so the company developed over 50 movie theaters around the country, primarily for Carmike Cinemas, which has now been acquired by AMC. And so we continue to own movie theaters throughout the country. That led to other areas of development, including retail, where we've done Dick's Sporting Goods, Mills Fleet Farm, Hobby Lobbies, and as well as a bunch of smaller out parcels as well. And more recently, our company has also been developing multifamily sites. So currently we have about 600 units of multifamily under construction this year. We'll have another 600 under construction next year. And then finally, what I focus the majority of my time is our large land tracts where we're doing master plan communities or larger land development such as the proposed Eastland Business Park. I have 2 active communities right now. One is the one which Mike mentioned, which is on the west side of our property, west of Brushy Creek. That'll be 1,400 lot master plan community at full build out. We completed the first phase, and we are breaking ground on the second phase as we speak. And then we have a second active development right now down outside of Waxahachie in Ellis County, where that is a larger lot subdivision with acre lots. And we completed the first phase there, and the second phase is about to be completed right now as well.
Anything specifically here in Terrell you've done?
Specifically in Terrell would be the project that we have in the Terrell ETJ, which being the residential subdivision west of Brushy Creek. And that was a project where Mike Sims and I were able to amend certain development agreements related to that project, in 2018 would be my best guess. And I appreciate the cooperation of City Terrell staff. And
absolutely. From an orientation standpoint, if you want to take a look at that residential development, you have to go 80, get down on Gateway, turn on Akron, you drive down Akron. Akron turns into Sage Hill magically because we know where the line is between Terrell and Forney. But then you can find that residential subdivision over there.
Okay. And last thing, if you had to give me an estimation of these type of projects, I think you call them service-ready projects, what's the percentage of those that you do or you've implemented and been successful?
So as far as service-ready industrial sites, this would be our second.
Second one?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hear any new questions?
I appreciate your time and your feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
At this time, we will discuss FY23 labor cost. Mike will lead us into this item by reviewing the items in the packet, the August 4th expectations regarding labor cost, and then we will have Carol Holland, HR Director, and J.R. Ayers, our HR Director, our Finance and and Housing Director that will be available for questions.
So, Mayor and Council, it's always good to be able to talk about rewarding employees for years of good service and trying to make sure that our wages are competitive. As you know, we've started sort of the process of talking about this topic. I'm trying to get us moving along and able to make some adjustments to our salary structure. And I guess I really want to just start it off by holding this fine document up. This is your FY22, FY23, FY24 strategic plan, right? And so when I think about, okay, I open this up and we've got a council adopted to-do list in here. And it's quite an aggressive to-do list, as y'all know. When I look through this and I say, okay, here's things in every single department that we've got at the City of Terrell that we want to accomplish and we want to get done, all of those are based on, do we have the personnel to do the work to make it happen? And so very first thing out of the gate is trying to make sure that we can really do the hiring necessary to have the full complement of staff that we have, and we retain the staff that we have. Y'all have done some really terrific things for us over the years. We came to you very concerned about police department salaries last year, and we said, look, we've got to retain some folks. We're gonna go from having 5 vacancies to having 10 vacancies in the police department if we don't do something soon, and y'all stepped up, as we've talked about, and supported that. We thank you for that. So I know that conversation last time was sort of quick, and again, we're trying to get ready for budget retreat. So August the 4th and 5th is our budget retreat. I will say that if you are a person who enjoys details, those budget retreats are for you. Always plenty of detail available there. And I'd invite members of the public, people who want to serve in District 5. I'd invite anybody involved, anybody who wants to get involved to be at our council budget retreat on the 4th and the 5th. Those start at 9 a.m. and we really cover a lot of very good information and data. So I'm going to start with a brief orientation to a couple of pages that are in the packet. So if you could bring up on the screen, Dawn, I think I'm going to find this on agenda item page 34. And that's going to be this wonderful chart. So this is our compensation plan. And our compensation plan was designed originally back in the 2014 time period when Carol Holland, Tori Edwards, and I retained Ray Associates, and we walked through with City Council the effort to really make sure that our salaries were in line with competing agencies. So back in that 2014 period, we surveyed 10 or 11 competing cities and 2 special districts, and we really asked ourselves the question, okay, what cities are like us? Now, admittedly, since 2014, some cities have grown and developed and they've stayed like us, and we've grown and developed and we've outpaced some of those cities. So I'm not going to tell you that those cities are perfect comparisons right now, but back in 2014, we were comfortable with that. And in 2014, council just did not make the decision back in that time period to be market leader. The decision was made based on property valuations here and, recruiting challenges that we had at the time to say, you know what, it's okay if we are a little under market. And we stayed a little under market. Each year, Carol goes out and surveys those competing cities and says, hey, what raises have you guys given? And we put that into a little formula, and we've slowly been tracking through the process of saying, okay, our competing cities gave an average raise of X in this year, and Y in this year, and Z in this year, and so on down the line. So we know every year since then the exact number of the percentage overall market adjustment that our competing cities did. And we can compare that to the percentage increase that we've done. And so we know that over the course of time, we've lagged a little bit. Our competing cities have tended more often than us to give raises, and we are sitting a little bit further away than we started. I want to say that we started out about 4% behind market, and that right now we're roughly 12% behind market. And Carol will probably correct me with the exact numbers there, but in general, we've lagged behind, and we prove that out through these annual surveys that we do. But nevertheless, this page reflects the compensation plan that council approved whenever you approved the raises and market adjustments that we did back in September of 2021. So for the average employee around here, not police department, police officers, but for every other employee, the last time they saw an increase in their base salary rate was in September of 2021. And I would say that nobody in September of 2021 was looking at the labor market saying that there would be a very high amount of inflation in early 2022. It just wasn't something that was on the radar screen. And consequently, some of our lower wage employees have really suffered from that. So that's a little intro to philosophy and what we're thinking here. We know in an inflationary environment, we'd like to do more for our employees, and we want to try to find ways to do that because we know we are starting out behind, and getting caught back up is a major goal for us. So let me explain what we're looking at so it's all clear and we're all sort of on the same page here. And I'm just going to use pay grade 10 as my example. So right there in the middle of the page, pay grade 10, you can read that based on the study at the time, the idea was that the group of positions that are in pay grade 10 all deserved generally like compensation. So whether you were a detention officer, an equipment operator 3, a housing specialist person, a mechanic 1, a record specialist 2, so on down the line, everybody in that category was judged by our compensation survey to be generally like and really needed to be paid a similar amount. And so the entry level in step 1 for that, if we were to hire somebody with low level experience, you know, they meet the minimum requirements, but a low level of experience, they might get paid $17.49 to be in pay grade 10. And what would happen is that over the course of time, you would be moving 2.5% per step all the way through. So if you happen to start off as a animal control officer, then the theory of the program was that pay grade 10, animal control officer, starts at $17.49. And let's say that person stayed their entire career with us and had been with us for a lengthy enough period of time to collect 16 steps in the system. Now, in theory, a step is a year, but we don't necessarily always reward by providing that extra step up. In fact, we've been in the habit of not providing that step. So as I go from, let's say I'm a step 7 employee here and I'm at $20.28, when City Council says we're going to allow a civilian step, all that means is that your pay grade 10 employees get to move from $20.28 to $20.79. And so when you hear us say steps, that's what we mean by step. That's a 2.5% increase that happens between a year of employment and another year of employment, dependent for our civilian employees on a vote by council to fund that 2.5% step. Pay grade 10 then contains all of those positions. Pay grade 5 is a difficult position to live on, right? Custodian 1 starts at $13.71, and you know, after 10 years is only up to $17.12. So we looked at all of this. We asked ourselves where our vacancies are. We asked ourselves what difficulties we're having in the labor market right now, and we've been trying to figure out how can we come forward to you and make a recommendation to improve our employees' lives and retain them longer and do a better job hiring. A lot of the slots you see on this page are the very slots that we have a difficult time recruiting for and filling because they are relatively low wage. And in fact, as we were talking last week, they are sometimes so low wage that it's more financially beneficial to not go to work at that wage level, depending on your household size and that sort of thing. So we want to be really mindful of our ability to hire low-wage employees. A couple of nuances on this page that are worth pointing out. Notice down in pay grade 11 where it says communications specialist. That's your 911 dispatcher. So if you recall last year, we said to council that we really felt like we needed help in the communications specialist world, and we said, can we get them 4% higher? And so that number there, where they're at 1910, but everybody else in pay grade 11 is at the 1836 level, that represents that 4% increase from last time around. That's what that decision did. You voted on a 4%, and Carol loads it up into the spreadsheet, and we have a new setup for that. The next page, I want to talk about a couple more things here. Pay grade 15, large group of folks there, everybody from animal control supervisor to youth services librarian. You can see step 1 through step 16. And then you start getting into the major supervisory positions. And as I discussed last time around, the folks in the major director level supervisory positions we have, plus some of the other leadership positions that are on this page. We had SGR, Strategic Government Resources, which helps us out on these topics from time to time. We paid them to do a review of salary levels at this group in sort of the January, February time period. And that basically came back around with the results with an updated list of cities that our average director/leadership position on the top end of this page is about 15% behind the market. So you never want to say that a number is exact when you're talking about surveying other cities and that sort of thing. But if I've got a data point that tells me the directors are 15% off, and I've got another data point that tells me that our entire pay plan is somewhere in the 12% off, I got to believe that. I got to start understanding that some corrections are in order, and we want to make sure we do that. The next page in here shows you, I believe, the fire department. The fire department has this pay schedule. And again, this is unchanged since that September 2021 period. And the next one shows you the police department. And this says January 1, 2022, because remember, in the fall of 2021, we came to you and said, look, we're going to lose a meaningful number of policemen to taking other jobs in other cities. We'd like permission to update our pay schedule. You guys adopt this by ordinance, and so you've seen that as an ordinance that we voted on in the fall, and then we made effective on January 1 of 2022. We've gotten a lot of good feedback about it, and that's great. It's helped us on the retention side, but frankly, we're still struggling on the recruiting side. We still have 5 vacancies. It's good that we don't have more, but you know, there's still an issue there. So that's a little intro on all of the pages. I'm going to go back to the first page in that series, if you would please, Dawn. Not this one, the first one in the pay plan. There you go. So remember last time around we talked about moving folks from pay grade to pay grade. So I'll kind of walk through an example of that because I don't want that idea to be unclear to anybody. So the position pay grade adjustments idea went like this. And I'm going to use the first, I'll use Equipment Operator 3. So Equipment Operator 3 is currently listed in 10. And so as I see Equipment Operator number 3, let's say I've got an Equipment Operator 3 making $20.79. When we say Equipment Operator 3 moves from pay grade 10 to pay grade 11, we're saying that that person who might be making, and I'm just giving examples right now, $20.79, well, that one action would move that employee to $21.82. That's what picking a position up, and you would publish a new version of this where it doesn't say Equipment Operator 3 under pay group 10 anymore. It says Equipment Operator 3 under group 11. Likewise, the ones at the lower level, our little chart here says that Custodian 1 moves from pay grade 5 to pay grade 6. So you pick up Custodian 1 and you move them from pay grade 5 to pay grade 6. When we advertise for a new Custodian 1, if we were ever happen to do that, you'd see them at pay grade 6, and that'd be a starting salary of $14.39, and then they would move on through the STEP program like that. So that's just kind of orientation to that. So now let me go back over to the page 31, if you would please, Dawn. So on page 31 is where we have the same chart that I had for you last time. I want to make sure I answer some of the questions that I've heard since our last meeting. So in the last labor budget, when you take the equipment replacement fund, the fleet fund, essentially the garage, and you take the utility fund and you take the general fund, you add up all the labor costs in there, you're going to get just over $20 million. Then if you say, okay, all of the changes that happened during FY22, because it was a very busy FY22 of lots of labor issues. We've known we had labor issues and been trying to bring forward things in a piecemeal manner to take care of labor issues. We've ended up where if we just started on October the 1st, then what would our labor cost be? They would be $21,885,000. So what's embedded in that number? Well, remember, in creating that number for your consideration, we wanted to make sure we put things into it that we would think of as being baked in the cake already. And the first one I'm going to mention is that includes a 5% health insurance cost increase between FY22 and FY23. We know that that's where our health insurance costs are going, so we didn't want to tell you a number that was inappropriately low for the start of FY23. We didn't want to come to you later and say, oh, by the way, there's also this other increase. We just gave you a flat number that included everything we considered baked in the cake for the start of October 1 in FY23. So there's things in there related to having some folks that were needed to be reclassified as crew leaders. There's things in there related to folks who we moved a position from maintenance worker. Remember, we took a maintenance worker, low-paid position, and made it a superintendent of streets position. So you're taking somebody who might have made in the $36,000 a year range, and you're making that a $72,000 a year position, and that's going to get reflected in your labor spreadsheet. And so when we briefed council on that, that's what that idea meant. And we took that and we embedded those financial assumptions in there. Another one we've worked very hard on is the finance department. Frankly, and we discussed this when we talked about finance manager, our finance department positions for years were designed to be clerks with very little training. That's just not who we are anymore. We need those positions to be highly skilled accounting positions, and instead of having a fleet of folks in the finance department who are great people but not well trained for as complicated a city as we are, we need to make sure that we have those at the right pay levels. So we went in there, we made those adjustments, and we considered that, quote, baked in the cake. 911 communication and certification, that's in there. All of the police department raises are in there. The 2 new officers are in there, making one of the new officer slots a sergeant promotion. That's included in there. That's that narcotics sergeant position that we talked about. So again, that's not a new staff person, but that's a higher paid staff person. So we review a lot of those. We had the education certification assignment pay policy. We did a top-to-bottom review of our labor spreadsheet. I felt like as difficult as it was to keep staffed, one of the things that Jay Ayers and I did was, as I mentioned before, we've had Rodney Rhodes helping us as a third party reviewing some of this. We went through literally every single cell in our labor spreadsheet, and we made sure that every single thing was right. And I don't mind saying that we discovered a couple of errors in there where I would say that calculation of $20,037,363 at the start of budget FY22, that included some numerical errors in calculating what that number ought to have been. We found those, we fixed those, and we got those to be straight and correct. Never before have we done as good a job with our estimate of labor cost as we're doing now, because we've taken and upgraded the way that we're doing and the method for doing it. And that's credit to Jay Ayers, because he's bringing a better technical analysis to our finance efforts, and we're getting a better estimate. So some of what you're seeing in that difference between 20 million and 21.8 million is just doing a better job estimating the number and making sure it's the right number. So again, there's a lot baked into that, and I don't want to beat that over the head too much, but what I would say is the $21,885,000 number, that was designed to give council a policy starting point, because the idea is that if we just start there, then everything else is additive to that. The phase 1 position pay grade adjustments, those seemed to get a lot of good acceptance from council last time, and I think they're some of the most straightforward things. If you're listed on this here, communication specialist, equipment operator 3, detention officer, so on down the line, all the folks listed there, the maintenance worker 1, maintenance worker 2, mechanics helper, library technician 2, custodian 2, library technician 1, custodian 1. All of those folks essentially get a 5% raise because they're moving from one pay grade to another pay grade, okay? That's how that works with phase 1, and that's a fairly low-cost step for us to do. So as your city manager, I'm telling you that I think our staff at these lower levels carry a lot of responsibility because they're still wearing that shirt with the City of Terrell logo, and they're still there for a citizen to walk up to and say, hey, I don't understand something here at the library, or I need this, and they're required to do very good customer service no matter who they are. So this is also where we have a lot of vacancies. I've got 5 vacancies in communication specialist right now. So we feel like that this is an important element for us to address. So that's phase 1, and we would ask very nicely as staff that we have council support for that, and I think I'm seeing that, so I appreciate that very, very much. The next page, Dawn, is the market adjustment. This is the hardest one because this means that Jay and I have to work very hard to make sure that we can afford what we're doing, not just in FY23, but we can afford what we might plan to do in FY24, FY25, and so on down the line. And so the question about, well, what's going to be affordable here? I don't want to recommend to you a increase in this market adjustment phase that I cannot stand behind as workable for FY24, okay? And that's what I'm going to try very hard to do. I'm going to give you a recommendation when we publish the budget about where I think we can afford to make not just FY23 make sense, but also FY24 and beyond make sense. Right now, that's carrying an estimated total cost of between $1.1 million and $1.9 million, and it's just incumbent upon Mr. Ayers and I to try to find that spot that we can bring to you as affordable. I would tell you that remember our budget sequence. Our budget sequence is that required by state law by the end of this week to put a draft budget on the internet. So what are we going to do? We're going to take and make a recommendation. We're going to place it on the website to meet that state law requirement. We're going to send you a web link to it. I'm going to give you a summary about what's in it, and I'm going to say, you know what? We've fought through property tax data and property tax calculation. We've made our best estimate on sales tax. We've made our best estimate on everything else that might be for revenue for next year. And I think that such and such number is, in the end, the affordable number that we can move forward with on market adjustment. And then at your budget retreat on August the 4th, we're going to give you ample opportunity to discuss it, walk through it, analyze the revenue assumptions that were embedded in it, analyze whatever you'd like to related to, does that make sense, and can you as council stand behind that as well? The standard step increase is the notion of compression in the overall program, and it's the frustration that our employees have when we've got an employee who might have been with the city for 15 or 20 years. That's a great employee for us. When we have long-tenured employees who have a great memory, know what's been happening in the city, they've met citizens multiple times, they've developed that level of trust, even if they're just a person who is picking up stuff at the parks, they still meet our citizens. They still talk to our citizens. They're still very important to us, and the human connections that they make while they're out and about on their job, even if it's digging a hole in front of Brookshire's, they're going to end up talking to folks. They're going to end up making those friends for us, and there's going to be an employee over at Brookshire's who, when it's 10 degrees outside, walks up and says, hey, we're also having this other problem over here. Can you help me out? And they might not be able to help them out right then, but they have that human connection, which is so important to customer service. So I'm going to stand behind our standard step increase because I feel like that's important for us to have continuity and memory as an organization. And so that's sort of what that idea is. And again, you saw that on your compensation plan I was just showing you. You're just walking through a series of steps over time. And again, just as disclaimer, yes, police and fire automatically get those steps under state law. So we're always talking, the only discretionary element you're talking about there is, do you provide this step on the civilian side? And again, Carol will do a better job on this memory exercise than me, but I'm going to say in the last 25 years, we've given steps maybe 2 or 3 times. So we've got 25-year employees who might have gotten 2 or 3 steps over the course of time. The next page here shows you our long tenured minimums. The idea here was, look, after we've done the pay grade adjustment, after we've done a market adjustment, after we've done a step adjustment, who do we have that kind of got left out, who ought to be at one of these threshold levels? So if you have 18 years or more of experience with the city, and after all of those other changes and adjustments, you still didn't get up to $22 an hour, our thought is, let's get that person up to $22 per hour, and then so on down the line through the rest of those hierarchies there, so that at the bottom, you've got people between 3 and 6 years of experience getting up to that $19 an hour. That won't be a big impact for a lot of people, but it will be some impact and a very meaningful impact for a smaller number of people. So the summary here is that our estimated total cost ranges between 1.9 million of added cost to $2.7 million of added cost. And all the variability there is in the market adjustment step. The resulting total labor costs will be between 23.8 million and 24.6 million. And again, the effort that Jay Harris and I are working on now is what, by the end of the week, are we going to be able to bring to you and say, yes, we can stand behind that as affordable. And I would say that I sense some impatience on the sense of council. I sense some impatience on staff of, can we please get this done? Can we please get through this point? And my comment to you is, we still have the obligation, when all of the warning signs in our national economy are saying bad things ahead, we've got to make sure that we don't end up what we were in 2009, 10, 11, 12, where we're furloughing employees. Nobody here wants to add employees or give pay raises and then find ourselves 6, 9, 10 months later, a year later, doing a furlough program. So if you find us being cautious, I'll say we're just doing our best to be a little cautious while we're analyzing these numbers. There's some disclaimers there about what we're not talking about, so I wanted to make that clear, but I'm not going to read all those again for you. So that's my overview of this. I'm sure that council's got questions for me, for Carol, for Jay. Happy to answer those. It's not an action item tonight. All that we were trying to accomplish tonight was to take another walk through here and make sure we could, A, answer any questions that council might have, and B, write down some more questions so that staff is well prepared to answer those questions on August the 4th. So I will hand it back to Councilwoman Velasquez.
And Carol, thank you for being here with us tonight, and Jay as well. Do either of you have anything else you would like to add before we open up for questions, new questions or comments from council members?
No, at this time, Mayor and Council, I do not have any specific comments, but I do want to emphasize that the compensation plan that was reviewed, that you need to realize or be very cognizant that that is still behind the market. So the information that Mike is proposing is to try to move us to where we are competitive within our own document before we go outside and survey other cities. So that document itself is still behind the market, and making the adjustments from one grade to the next take some of the tension off of the market, but that document is still behind the market at 11.836%, almost 12.
Thank you. And with that, we'll open for questions, any new questions or comments of council members. Whether you would like to do an overall comment or question or take feedback on each individual step, I'll defer to council members that have questions or comments.
Can you produce a more updated copy of that if I needed to see that in the next few days? Like a more updated copy of what the market is now?
Well, I can provide, but we are working off of that current document. That is the document that we are compensating employees annually. But there is calculations and algorithms that I can produce what the market should be, what the comp plan should be.
Well, I can appreciate Mrs. Sims bringing out the caution component of our budget because, there are some things to anticipate in the future about our market, around the country. However, though, I want to ask a question and then make another statement. The 2.7 million, is that the number that will get our city employees at the market rate, or we still be slightly behind? Let's just say all things being perfect, we could do the 2.7 million. We can fund the 2.7 million. How would that look forward?
Across the board?
Across the board.
It is not, let me just give you a preamble. When we began the process with Catherine and Ray in preparing a comprehensive comparative salary study and benefit study, it was based on, we knew before going in that there was going to be some employees that were lower and some that were maybe on market. There has never not been the recognition and cognizance of executive management that is affordability. So to answer your question, that number will not move us to market, but that is the number that, quite honestly, you may have to work with because of affordability.
Yeah, I know that number is a little bit tough from the information that I got. However,
Can I just tag a little additional answer on that? So I want you to equate the $2.7 million with an 8% market adjustment. So as Carol's saying, and I'm using the rough numbers, she's got the decimals, I'm giving you rough numbers. We're 12% behind market right now. So when I say give an 8% market increase, you can tell we're still just going to be a tad bit behind there. Other cities will make their increases in October. We don't know what those will be yet. But if we were able to afford the 2.7 million, and I don't want to claim that right now, but if we're able to afford the 2.7 million, that equates to an 8% market adjustment, and that would close a portion of the gap between 12% behind market, right? So if I catch up, I'm doing better than I was doing.
I can live with that all day long.
Yeah.
I do want to say to our council is I do know that our police officers got a significant raise earlier, and I did okay that along with my council members, and I would do it again if I had to, because I wanted to make sure that our officers was kept here in Terrell, and that we could have a pay rate that they can be proud of in the city of Terrell as well. However, though, with having that, we're giving them significant raise. What I am going to recommend to the mayor as well as the council is that we forego a raise in the new fiscal year, October 1st, for our police department, and focus on our public service workers, because those are the ones who I feel that have been very behind. I know some tenured employees that have been here, 20-something years, and as we discussed, that they probably should be at the very top in terms of their salary, and a lot of them are still hovering around at the lower levels. So, that's something I want the council to consider, going into the new budget. That's just my stance. I'm really concerned about our public service workers, making sure maybe they're not in market value, but they got something significant that's going to build morale of the department and make them feel great about continuing to work for the city of Terrell.
Well, actually, Mike did make the proposal, as he said in his presentation, that he was very aware of those departments that were not, that were losing employees and needed to be competitive with our other competitors within the surrounding area. So two of the three staff departments are on market, and that would be your police department and fire department as being with market. But those personnel are highly recruitable, and if you can be a police officer in Terrell, the state requirement is the same as you being a police officer in Mesquite. So you just need to take that into under advisement that they are currently market. However, they're police officers and they're firefighters, and they're very transferable.
How many police officers do we have?
We have
Guesstimate if you can.
No, we have 44 sworn, 47 sworn, but actually 45 and 2 additional with the narcotics officers that you all have.
And how many firefighters?
We have 33 firefighters. And that is different classifications from battalion chief to firefighter.
Carol, let's see if I get this right. I believe we've got 1 vacancy in fire department firefighter ranks and 5 vacancies in police department ranks.
Correct. We will have because of attrition, we have a fire captain who is retiring.
Right.
So we will have a vacancy, but they're at full strength. And we now have 6 vacancies with the departure of a sergeant relocating to West Texas.
We have full-time staff, what is it, 205? I think I asked Mr. Sims this last time. Was it 203 or 205?
It's actually 207.
207.
With the new narcotics officers.
About 38%. So about 39% have already gotten a significant raise. Just those 2 departments?
Yes.
Mostly?
Yes.
I heard him say something about the crew leaders and realignment and all that.
Those were individual that you were referencing,
Right.
Staff employees, non-civil service, through promotions or reassignments. But across the board, it's police and fire.
We still got 62% of our staff that hadn't got any raises, but the 38% covered the fire and the police.
Correct.
I don't know, sometimes you ask questions after the fact. Where did the funding come from for the police? There may be some additional resources. Where did that funding come from? And Mike might have to answer that.
That's fine. That was just general fund revenue from FY '22. So as we were watching sales tax come in over the course of FY '22, remember from August voting on the budget through the time we were making that decision, we had a couple more data points of sales tax, and we felt like we'd be a little more confident in those revenues.
Have that raise exhausted all those other anticipated sales taxes that we're doing? I always hear we're doing good. Make the front
Yeah,
page
I
easier.
think the easiest way to answer that question is to go look at what would be easy. So go back 1 page here, Dawn, please. Back 1 more. So I would say that much of that growth between 20 million and 21.8 million was paid for by sales tax increase that happened during FY '22, okay? Then I would tell you, if you go to the 3rd page in this, take a look at that range. Are we gonna get to 23.8 million or 24.6 million? Well, a lot of that has to do with our revenue analysis for next year, right? But I can tell you that right now today, I'm rather confident that we're going to be able to afford the low end, right? So the low end of that additional 1.9 million or the 23.8 million, I think we have enough revenue capacity to achieve the low end. So it's not whether or not we'll be able to do a 4% increase. I think I'm pretty confident we can do that. And Jay Ayers didn't just give me a dirty look. So I think we can get to the 4% level. The question's going to be, what beyond 4% is really affordable? So I have confidence in answering you right now to say, I feel like our additional growth in sales tax and other revenue makes me confident that we can get to 23.8 million. And we're really struggling in our house over here to figure out, is it possible to get to that higher number of 24.6 million? That's a financial analysis that I'm just going to tell you Jay and I are not done with yet.
That 4% is the 1.9.
Yes, sir.
I'm really happy that we took care of our first responders, our police and firefighters, but I'm still thinking about that 62%, and just knowing that those 2 departments got such a substantial raise. Like when I look at the base salaries, some of those raises were almost 33%. I believe in fair payment and fair, but I did not realize that some of those raises were 33%, and even some of them were not for our patrol officers. I was thinking back on the presentation that we were losing officers here and there. But when I look at some of the raises, the 33 to 25%, you know, the captains, lieutenant, sergeant, the patrol officers only got 18%. And I'm telling you, living in this city, when I call the police, I want those officers there to protect me and my family. And I think a lot of the other citizens would resound the same, but maybe we do have some extra funding that can come through the general fund for this other 62%. But we need to find a way to get these individuals funded. Even when you look at the long tenured, phase 4, I think it starts with people that's been committed to our city for 3 years, all the way up to 18 or more. I think that's pressing. When I look at that number, 125,000, that sounds pretty minuscule to me, to reward those people that are long tenured and been hanging around. When I look at phase 1, 50,000, that's $4,000 a month for the city to just do a position pay grade adjustment. Those two things are pressing. The other ones, we can work. I think we need to work on phase 2 and 3, but just like when we did what we did for our police, it was in fear of losing our police officers. And I think the same thing's can happen with these long tenured employees. We're not talking about anybody less than 3 years in phase 4. And then phase 1, it would help to just provide immediate relief. And that's less than $200,000 for the other 62% of the staff if we have 207 employees. And that's just my thinking.
Councilwoman Thomas, I would like to say, I hear you on the 62%, and I don't understand the number only because we approved, don't quote me, 2.5% raise in FY '22. So everyone got a raise. So I don't, are you saying 62%? It almost sounds like, well, we neglected 62% of the staff. I would say that everyone got a raise, a blanket raise across the board, while police did get more, right? We did, and there were certain elements, right? And I'm proud of administration for bringing forth police, dispatch, job titles that need help. I hope that Carol and Mike, I hope they continue to push job titles that are really struggling to the forefront, because those do need extra tweaking. And then to comment to Mr. Simpson, I would say, man, we just got, and I'm gonna use roads as an example, we just got police up to par, right? We just got them level. If I use a street in your district, West End, let's say I totally redo West End, that doesn't mean I wanna neglect it now because I've got it solid, right? This is the same mentality of, let's keep a good road a good road. Let's keep a good salary a good salary. So police, man, I'm gonna contradict you and say, police probably need your standard raise, right? They do for morale purposes. I'm not so sure that you won't have to come back halfway through FY '23 and give police another bump. You're having trouble recruiting right now. You just are.
Well, I'm gonna say if the significant salary that we approved, if that can't boost morale, 33% as Councilwoman Holmes Thomas just pointed out. I mean, that's look, they didn't have to, and I'm proud they got the raise, believe me, but they didn't have to work into that. It was something that was given as a means to secure our police department. Now, public service workers and other city employees, pay is low, and they've been very loyal. They stay with this city. I got a personal friend of mine who I graduated from high school with. He been with this company, been with this city for about 24, 25 years. We had a neighbor who had a leaky faucet, water going everywhere. He came over on his own time, and asked them to just get the equipment. He'll repair it. He did it in maybe 30 minutes. and then charge anybody anything. I see our city workers do that all the time. So seeing their commitment and their desire to stay with this city, irregardless of pay, says a whole lot. And I just think that when they hear about the significant raises we gave our police officers, and they still where they are. Now, you might have a good morale here, but at the so-called bottom, as maybe the city like to look at employees, their morale is not that good. So I'm just saying that when you give somebody 18, 30%, 33% raise, I mean, I felt good about that, and they sure gonna feel good about it. So if we want to move forward into fiscal year 23 and say, okay, well, we'll still give you a 5% rate, I mean, great, but we gotta take care of the guys that we've neglected
So
for a long time, man.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call pay grades, we started pay grade 5 or 6, and I'm gonna call them pay grades, or grades 5, 6, 7, the people that affect your quality of life, right? I'm pulling for those pay grades, right? But I'm not saying this or that, right? I'm not saying I have to cut police. I'm not saying I have to be careful with police. I'm just saying police is good, keep police good, but do I think that your grades 5, 6, 7, do I think you should get them to $19, $20, $22 an hour? Yes, right, I do. But I'm just saying, I don't want council to have the mentality, because to pick on the mayor, and he's not here to defend himself, you know, sometimes it's this or that. It doesn't have to be this or that, right? Just be fair across the board. Police is good, keep it good. That's my only comment on police. And then I would tell you on phase 1, it's just a discuss item. It's not a consider. If council wanted to have already moved on phase 1 last week, I said I was in support of phase 1 last week. Man, we could have voted down it tonight. Rick said he wasn't in favor, right? Rick said he wasn't in favor of it, right? That would have helped your grades, your lower grades, right? That would have helped them immediately. So one voice, this is about voting with conviction. One voice said, hey, I'm interested in that. The mayor said, I'm not interested in that today, right? It's the mayor's one vote, I'm one vote. We kind of canceled each other out. No one said anything. If you want to move forward with some of these items quicker, just say something. It doesn't have to be just a discuss item. It could have been discuss and consider, but because no one spoke up last week, we're still at discuss. And that means now it's just gonna trickle to budget retreat. So your quicker items that you wanna move down the line, man, you just gotta raise your hand and say, Mr. Sims, I wanna move it down the line, or hey, Rick, let's talk. I wanna move it down the line. And there'll be discussions, right, behind the scenes, and that's how things move forward on the agenda. So that's what I wanted to say about that. So with that being said, man, I'm in support of phase 1 tonight. I can't vote on it. It's not up for just, you know, consideration. So there's that.
Well, whether we give our police department, this 5%, whether we do that or not, I'm just concerned about that we take care of our city employees who have been neglected in terms of their salary, in terms of their rate of pay. I know the city has done the best it can over the years, but I think it just gives the impression that we care more about our police department than we do our city workers. And I know that's not Mr. Sims' viewpoint. I know that's not mine or the council. But I just think we need to do something to move in the direction to where we make it a little bit better for them.
Sure, no, I hear you. I just think that maybe we need to concentrate on those grades, right? I don't have to cut police to help my grade 5 person. So I think the goal as council for you to say is, hey, we would like a threshold of this as our minimum wage, and we would like to give this in a raise, right? You might say, hey, we want to give these 3 pieces of candy. There's got to be some there has to be some crunch to